بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. Proceed. Yesterday we talked about the Muhsinun, or Muhsinin, and today inshallah we'll talk about the Mutaqeen, the second category of people, or second type of people that Allah loves in the Quran, or Allah told us in the Quran that He loves, is the Mutaqeen. But before I talk about the Mutaqeen, I was reflecting on our talk yesterday, and it lasted for an hour, and I hope that this, inshallah, will not last for that long. And I'll try to time it, so that, because I know that most of you, or if not all of you, have been awake throughout the night. But I wanted, I was reflecting on the talk yesterday, and I said to myself, this one characteristic of al-ihsan, this one quality of al-ihsan, we get frustrated a lot as Muslims because we feel that we have no control over world affairs. We have no control over what's happening in the world. We have no control over, the contention between the East and the West, or the contention between, Muslim countries and the West, or this or that. And we have no control over, even domestically, you don't feel like you have much control over anything. You don't feel that even if you voted as a black, you will be able to control anything or change anything, although this does not mean defeatism, it does not mean to give up. You do your best and you try to take precautions, make provisions, and do your best. But many of us feel that we have, or most of us feel that we have no control. But you do have control over one person. And all you're required to do is to make sure that this one person represents Islam in the most beautiful way. And if this one person make sure that in every interaction with a non-Muslim, that non-Muslim will walk away thinking of Muslims as competent and compassionate. Isn't ihsan about perfection, excellence, kindness, and beauty? So if in every interaction, at work, school, with your neighbors, in every interaction, you acted with ihsan, and that person walked away with this impression that you are, and he knows that you're Muslim, because hopefully people know that you're Muslim. But if you walked away with that impression that this Muslim, not necessarily every Muslim, but you walked away with the impression that this Muslim is competent, that is ihsan, excellence, perfection, part of what ihsan means, and compassionate, that's ihsan, kindness, compassion is ihsan. And the Prophet said, "Inna Allah kataba ihsan ala kulli shay." Allah prescribed the ihsan concerning every matter, concerning all matters. So every interaction, you let that person walk away with that impression. Will you be making a difference? Yes, you are making a difference. And regardless of the magnitude of that difference, that is all you're required by Allah to do. Aren't you done? Haven't you fulfilled basically your commitment, your own commitment? Yes. If you continue to do this until you die, you have fulfilled your own commitment, and it does not matter what happens to the world. You have fulfilled your own commitment. Keep in mind, this is can we hire it? Because it is impossible that I can get in closer to the mic. Even if I hold it, I will not be able to get closer to it. If I hold it, it will be farther away from me. Is it possible to hire it? Or is it possible for the sisters to... Is it just the sisters who can't hear me?
Yeah.
Is it possible that they come forward a little bit? Because
So the sisters can come forward.
It's not your fault. It's not much at school. I was just given like a talk at ICMC, during Tawheed, and they kept on telling me, put the mic closer to your mouth. I'm kissing them. I know I'm handicapped, but here. No, but the sisters, if they come, huh?
What can I do? I did this.
No, but yes, you're another person. I understand you. I just came from ICMC. Okay. So that is all we need to do. That's all that we're required to do, and we wouldn't have to fulfill our commitment if we do this until we die. Now, let's talk about the Mutaqeen. Let's talk about taqwa and the Mutaqeen, and let's reflect on the verses in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that He loves al-Mutaqeen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ مَنْ إِنْ تَأْمَنْهُ بِقِنْطَارٍ يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْكَ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ إِنْ تَأْمَنْهُ بِدِينَارٍ لَا يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْكَ إِلَّا مَا دُمْتَ عَلَيْهِ قَائِمًا ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا لَيْسَ عَلَيْنَا فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ سَبِيلٌ وَيَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبَ وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ بَلَى مَنْ أَوْفَى بِعَهْدِهِ وَاتَّقَى فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَّقِينَ. وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ مَنْ إِنْ تَأْمَنْهُ بِقِنْطَارٍ, and of the people of the scripture, or of the people of the book, are some who, if you entrust them with a kantar in English is a 100-weight, it's a hoard of gold, it's a large amount of gold, they will readily pay it back to you. And there are some who, if you entrust them with 1 coin of gold, 1 dinar, 1 coin of gold, they will not pay it back to you unless you're standing over them, unless you're persistently demanding it from them. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا لَيْسَ عَلَيْنَا فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ سَبِيلٌ. That is because they said there is no blame upon us concerning our dealings with al-Ummiyin, concerning our dealings with the unlearned, the illiterate, the Gentiles. There is no blame. We will not be held accountable. We will only be held accountable concerning our dealings with our own co-religionists, but not concerning our dealings with the Ummiyin, the unlearned people. وَيَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبَ, and they say falsehood. They fabricate lies against Allah. وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ, knowingly, while they know it. Bala, but yes. And then Allah would not say what? Yes, what? Yes, they will be held accountable. Yes, there is blame that they will deserve concerning their dealings or their, violations of the rights of the unlearned or people of the other nations. And we have to keep in mind that this is, we're being all addressed in this. Because there are some of us who say that it doesn't matter what I do to people who are not Muslim, for instance. Or, not many of us, and certainly not the learned among us, but there are some of us who have this notion that, there is a little bit leniency there. Allah is saying no. بَلَى مَنْ أَوْفَى بِعَهْدِهِ وَاتَّقَى, whoever fulfills his commitment and showed taqwa, وَاتَّقَى, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَّقِينَ, then verily Allah loves the Mutaqeen. But there is a thread here. Every time Allah said that He loves the Mutaqeen, it was not about people who pray or fast or do any of that. And every time Allah says that He loves the Mutaqeen, it was about people who have istiqamah in their dealings, straightness, rectitude, righteous dealings. They uphold their pledges, their commitments, their covenants. And every time Allah said that He loves the Mutaqeen, it had to do with interactions with people and upholding your commitment honoring your commitment in your dealings with people. Allah said that He loves al-Muttaqeen here, and Allah said that He loves al-Muttaqeen in 2 verses in Surah At-Tawbah. The beginning of Surah At-Tawbah. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ عَاهَدتُّم مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَنقُصُوكُمْ شَيْئًا وَلَمْ يُظَاهِرُوا عَلَيْكُمْ أَحَدًا فَأَتِمُّوا إِلَيْهِمْ عَهْدَهُمْ إِلَى مُدَّتِهِمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَّقِينَ. That's the first one. Except those of the mushrikeen with whom you have a covenant, a treaty, a covenant. ثُمَّ لَمْ يَنقُصُوكُمْ شَيْئًا, and then they did not fail you in anything. They did not fall short. They did not basically fall short in discharging their obligations towards you, towards that commitment between you and them, that covenant between you and them. They upheld the terms of the covenant, and they did not fall short, and they did not fail you. وَلَمْ يُظَاهِرُوا عَلَيْكُمْ أَحَدًا, and they did not support anyone against you. فَأَتِمُّوا إِلَيْهِمْ عَهْدَهُمْ إِلَى مُدَّتِهِمْ, then complete their contract, complete the term of their contract until its end. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Verily, verily Allah loves al-Muttaqeen. This has to do with what? Fulfilling your pledge, your commitment towards people. And those people are what? Mushrikun. So the first time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about He loves al-Muttaqeen, it was about, they said that we will not have, there is no blame on us concerning our dealings with the Gentiles, with unlearned people. And Allah said to them, no, you're still held accountable. You're bound to uphold the same virtues, the same values with everybody. And then in this verse, Allah is telling us Muslims that you should fulfill their contract, the term of their contract, as long as they have not breached it. You do not breach it either. And then the other verse in Surah At-Tawbah also, كيف يكون المشركين عهد عند الله وعند رسوله إلا الذين عاهدتم عند المسجد الحرام فما استقاموا لكم فاستقيموا لهم إن الله يحب المتقين. How could the mushrikeen, what? How could the mushrikeen have a covenant in the sight of Allah and with His Messenger? إِلَّا الَّذِينَ عَاهَدتُّمْ عِنْدَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ, except those with whom you conducted a treaty by a Masjid al-Haram, the sacred Masjid. فَمَا اسْتَقَامُوا لَكُمْ فَاسْتَقِيمُوا لَهُمْ. As long as they are upright with you, be upright with them. As long as they treat you with uprightness and straightness, be straight with them also. Istiqamah, straightness, rectitude, uprightness. فَمَا اسْتَقَامُوا لَكُمْ, as long as they are upright with you, you should also be upright with them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Verily Allah loves al-Muttaqeen. So every time al-Muttaqeen was mentioned, every time, not al-Muttaqeen was mentioned, but every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that He loves al-Muttaqeen had to do with those dealings with other people, and people that are every time not your fellow Muslims or fellow religionists, but people of other faith groups, or people who are mushrikeen, polytheists. So the first thing that we want to reflect on is فَمَا اسْتَقَامُوا لَهُمْ فَاسْتَقِيمُوا لَهُمْ. As long as they are upright with you, you should also be upright with them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَّقِينَ. It did not say إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُسْتَقِيمِينَ, as if they are interchangeable. Istiqamah and taqwa, as if they are interchangeable. As long as they are upright with you, you should be upright with them. For verily Allah loves al-Muttaqeen, as if taqwa and istiqamah are interchangeable. And you will find that all of those values have a great deal of overlap with each other. So sometimes even it comes down to splitting hairs between some of these values, but every one has its own distinction. So taqwa, iman, istiqamah, wara, ikhlas, muraqabah, muhasabah. There is some degree of overlap between all of them. Between all of them. Ilm, taqwa and ilm. Can there be overlap between taqwa and ilm? Absolutely, there is overlap between taqwa and knowledge. معروف الكعبي رحمه الله said كيف يتقي الله من لا يعرف ما يتقي. How could someone fear Allah when he does not know what he should be aware of and conscious of, or what he should be avoiding? Well, he doesn't know what he should be avoiding. He doesn't have the knowledge to basically avoid the displeasures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he does not know what pleases Allah and what displeases Allah, or he has limited knowledge. So the more knowledgeable you become, the more capable, equipped to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءُ. Verily, those who fear Allah of His servants are the scholars, because they know how to fear Him. They know what they should be avoiding. So there is overlap. But here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses taqwa and taqwa as if they are interchangeable. And they are, to a great extent, interchangeable, even though each one has its own implications. And it is looking at the religious commitment from a different angle. But if taqwa is basically to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be watchful of your actions. And let me tell you this. Before I talk about this interface, or this overlap between taqwa and istiqamah, there is a beautiful asar. It was reported from Abi Hurairah, and it was also reported from Ubay ibn Ka'b. Ubay ibn Ka'b was asked by Umar ibn Khattab, and you can imagine someone of the knowledge of Umar ibn Khattab and someone of the wisdom of Umar ibn Khattab. He goes to another Sahabi who is a great Sahabi. But certainly you compare, like Umar is Umar still at the end of the day. So he goes to a Sahabi that is not of his basically caliber, and he says to him, well, tell me about taqwa, teach me about taqwa. He's trying to get more insight. He knows that if he asks Ubay ibn Ka'b, he will be able to basically broaden his understanding or deepen it, to give him more insight. So he goes to Ubay ibn Ka'b and asks him about taqwa, tell me what taqwa is about. And Ubay ibn Ka'b says to Umar ibn Khattab, and the Sahaba were just like brilliant. The parables they use, the examples they use, just brilliant. So Ubay ibn Ka'b goes to him and tells him what? We talked about this, right?
Yes.
Yes, right.
We're in the early stage.
Hmm?
Yeah, we spoke about it.
Hmm?
You mentioned it yesterday.
Okay. So he said what? Have you crossed the thorny land or valley? And Umar ibn Khattab said, yes. What have you done? What do? You lift up your garment, you watch, and so on. So Ubay ibn Ka'b said to him, that is taqwa. So in this case, we want to translate taqwa as what? Vigilance. How could, if you're truly vigilant, and you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one, and it is the straight one. And any basically deviation from that straight path is a deviation into misguidance. And if you're truly diligent in your religious commitment and watchful and vigilant, you're always fearful of leaving the path, you will always be straight. If you're muttaqi, you will always be mustaqeen. You will always be straight, because you're always watching for the milestones on the two sides of that straight path. You're always watching for any sort of misleading path. You're reading the signs, and you're being careful that you don't take any misleading path that may be curved a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, and you're staying on that straight path, because that is the path that is the shortest road to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is a great deal of overlap. That's why عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه عمر بن عبد العزيز رضي الله عنه, when he was asked about taqwa, he said that taqwa Allah ليست بالصيام ولا القيام ولا التخليط بين ذلك ولكن فعل ما أمر وترك ما نهى عنه وزجر أو كما قال. The taqwa Allah is not about fasting or praying or mixing the two. Taqwa Allah is about basically doing that which He commanded and avoiding that which He prohibited. And that's taqwa. Umar ibn Khattab used the expression when he talked about the istiqamah. He used a beautiful expression. He said in the istiqamah, and تستقيم على الأمر والنهي ولا تروها روغان السعادة. It is to be straight on the commands and prohibitions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and do not be foxy, or do not, or avoid the craftiness, the deceitfulness of foxes. Don't beat around the bush. Don't, be deceitful in your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be straight. Don't be deceitful. Don't be like a fox when you deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Deceitful, crafty, sly, etc. So there is that great overlap between taqwa and istiqamah. And then the next thing that we want to be aware of is that taqwa, being that it is vigilance, being that it is watching. You're afraid, you're concerned that you will slip. You're concerned that you will be pricked by a thorn. It is a thorny land because there are a lot of temptations. And there is a lot of misguidance around you, and a lot of temptations, and a lot of sort of misconceptions, and Shaitan is not letting you, is not leaving you alone, is not letting you walk, closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's pulling you from every direction. And He's actually pulling you from 4 directions. And I'll tell you about the 4 directions. And they're all in Surah Al-A'raf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the shaitan, said about the shaitan's conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He commanded him to prostrate and he did not prostrate. The shaitan said to Allah, the shaitan threatened, not Allah, threatened us in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Allah's presence. The shaitan threatened us and said to Allah, ثُمَّ لَآتِيَنَّهُمْ مِنْ بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ وَعَنْ أَيْمَانِهِمْ وَعَنْ شَمَائِلِهِمْ وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرَهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. And then I will come to them from the front and the back and the right side and the left side, and you will not find most of them grateful. That's what the shaitan told Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll come to them from the front, from the back, from the right, from the left, and you will not find most of them grateful. Before I tell you about the 4 things, the 4 different directions, just to assure you that regardless of his plots, if you're connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if the habl between you and Allah, the rope between you and Allah, you did not cut it off, you did not abandon your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Qatada said that he will attack from all 4 directions, but he did not say that he will attack from the top, because he will never be able to obstruct the mercy of Allah, and he knows Allah will not permit him to obstruct His mercy. The mercy descends upon us as long as we keep the rope with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tight, and we keep our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We moisten that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not allow it to be strained, or your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is your source of strength, and He is your source of power against your main adversary, which is the shaitan. But لَأَتِيَنَّهُمْ مِنْ بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ, from the front. How does he attack from the front? He glamorizes the dunya in our eyes. He glamorizes the dunya. He makes the dunya so beautiful. He makes us heedless of the transience of the dunya. Are we really fully conscious of the transience of the dunya? It's, being very temporary, very short. No, so he glamorizes the dunya, and he gives us this false one hope in the dunya, and that is how he attacks from the front. And how does he attack from the back? He raises doubts about the akhirah. That's Abdullah ibn Abbas's interpretation, by the way. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu interpret the attack from the front as, يُزَيِّنُ لَهُمُ الدُّنْيَا. He would glamorize the dunya for them, beautify it, ornament the dunya in their eyes. And then the attack from the back is to raise doubts about the akhirah. And this is truly what he does all the time. He glamorizes the dunya, he beautifies the dunya in our sight, and he raises doubt about the akhirah. And if he fails to raise doubts about the akhirah, in the sense that he cannot really make us doubt the akhirah intellectually, he will obstruct us from being mindful of the akhirah. You don't doubt it intellectually. And some people doubt it intellectually. But if you will not be doubting the akhirah intellectually, you're very comfortable, you're very stable, established in your belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the yawm al-akhir and the hereafter, what the shaitan will be doing is to make you forgetful, heedless, neglectful of al-akhirah. Just basically, he tries to push al-akhirah away from the focus of your consciousness. Just push it a little bit to the side here, a little bit to the side, to the back of your mind, so that it is not in the focus of your awareness. And that's what he does all the time, by so many things. And then, وَعَنْ أَيْمَانِهِمْ, and then he will attack from the right by making the hasanat very distasteful, unappealing to us. And he said, وَعَنْ شَمَائِلِهِمْ, and he will attack from the left by making the sayyat very tempting to us. That's the plan of the shaitan. So taqwa basically is to have a wiqayah. Taqwa is not, it's not about treatment, it's about prevention, right? That's even applicable in medicine. It's a preventative approach to the issue of iman. Taqwa is your preventative approach to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to your faith, to your iman. Taqwa comes from tawaqqi. Wiqaya is what? Prevention, not treatment. The alhaj is treatment. But wiqaya is prevention. So taqwa is to be vigilant and to try to avoid anything that will make you, fail in your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you have to have a wiqaya from the right, wiqaya from the left, wiqaya from the front, wiqaya from the back. How do you do this? Your wiqaya from the front is basically to reflect on the nature of this dunya. Your wiqaya and understand how unpredictable, how unworthy it is, and wiqaya from the back, you protect yourself from the shaitan's plot against you, from the shaitan's attack against you from the back, is by reflecting on the hereafter and making sure that it does not leave the center of your attention, by being reminded all the time, reminding yourself all the time of the hereafter. And we don't have time to discuss how, but maybe in the future at some point. And then wiqaya from the right side, by basically avoiding the pluck of the shaitan. He's trying to make the hasanat distasteful. He's trying to make the hasanat unappealing to you. And then you are doing more of the hasanat. Initially, it will be a struggle. You will convince yourself of the worthiness of this struggle until it becomes sweet, until you start to reap the sweetness of that struggle. And then it comes at one point. Once there is devotion, once there is dedication and ikhlas, it will come at one point. You're very fighting of sleep now that you're doing. It may be difficult and it may be a little bit aggravating. And you're saying, he said that he will summarize, and it's been almost half an hour. But and then eventually you start to read that, don't worry, you're not going to be here until you read the sweetness. But eventually you will start to find pleasure in this, in waking up for salah, or in, sitting down to recite or to memorize, or in doing some charitable work, going to visit someone who's sick, and all of these things, teaching the kids on, Sunday school. Eventually you're pulling out your hair, like initially you were pulling out your hair every time you come to the Sunday school, because the kids are just, all over the place, and you can't take it anymore. And whoever said that I'm not cut out for this, whoever convinced me of doing this, but then you eventually start to like it. You persevere in the beginning, and you struggle against the shaitan in the beginning, against yourself in the beginning. But wallahi, eventually when you start to feel that you're making a difference, that this is such a beautiful feeling when you know that this kid Omar, who used to be so rambunctious and so all over the place and so disobedient, is actually softening with you, or is actually seeking you for advice, or did actually memorize this particular dua or this particular dhikr. It is such a great feeling. And then you start to sort of find the sweetness of it. And then you protect yourself from the right, from the left, by more recognition of the harm of sayyat and of disobedience, and more awareness that this disobedience, regardless of how miniature it is a disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your maker, your sustainer. And you should never take it lightly, and you should never be heedless in concerning your own sayyat, because once you become heedless, they pile up against you and they drown you. That's the ram that would cover up your heart and will drown your heart. There is more to it. Certainly we can talk about taqwa in half an hour, but it's been 32 minutes, and I was committed to summarize it this time and make it short. So I will just have to stop here, because if I carry on, I'm just going to continue for as long as we did yesterday. And I know that you are tired, and I see the sleep in your eyes. So we'll stop here. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us taqwa. Give us the ability to sustain this taqwa until we meet Him.
Sheikh, any questions?
Yeah, 5 minutes just for questions for the people who needed questions earlier. So some brothers are waiting for you to ask some questions.
That's fine. Well, we're done. Whoever wants to wait for the questions, you're welcome. Whoever wants to leave or sleep or do anything, you're also welcome. Who has a question?
I'm like, I went to sleep.
You tired yourself.
No, I'm fine.
Okay, I don't see your guy. I think
Hmm?
I don't see him.
Actually, I can't hear you very well because it's...
Sure. Oh,
Yes.
It's I've heard a report from Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu that he was asked about taqwa. He responded that it was الخوف من الجليل والعمل بالتنزيل والرضا بالقليل والاستعداد بيوم الأخير. Have you come across this? Is this something that has?
That's Ali ibn Abi Talib. When Ali ibn Abi Talib was asked about taqwa, he said that taqwa الخوف من الجليل والعمل بالتنزيل والرضا بالقليل والاستعداد ليوم الرحيل. He said, Ali radiallahu anhu said that taqwa is the fear from the most glorious, خوف من الجليل والعمل بالتنزيل, and to act upon the revelation, والرضا بالقليل, and to be content with little, والاستعداد ليوم الرحيل, and to be ready for the departure, for the day of your departure. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, when he was asked about taqwa, he said, أن يطاع فلا يعصى وأن يذكر فلا ينسى وأن يشكر فلا يكفر. Taqwa is for Allah to be obeyed and never disobeyed. يطاع فلا يعصى وأن يذكر فلا ينسى, to be remembered and never forgotten. وأن يشكر فلا يكفر, and to be shown gratitude and never shown ingratitude. Tariq ibn Habib, when he was asked about it, there's just, let's not carry this. But it is from Ali ibn Abi Talib, that statement, yes.
can you explain the saying from Ali that I read in the book that he said, if I were to see Jahannam or Jannah, would not increase me in iman?
I wouldn't fear it. I wouldn't fear it anymore.
Because they developed the level of iman that is called the Ayn al-Yaqeen, and after you develop the level of certainty, which is called the Ayn al-Yaqeen, which is ultimate certainty, you're already seeing them. You see them with the eyes of your heart, and the eyes of your heart are just as seared as basically in terms of being informed, of your heart being informed, the eyes of your heart are just as good as the eyes of your head. So he's saying that I'm seeing them with the eyes of my heart, and if I see them with the eyes of my head, that does not make a difference, because the eyes of my heart are just as good. So he's seeing the Jannah and Nar with the eyes of his heart. You're seeing Allah in this dunya with the eyes of your heart. And the prize for those who see Him with the eyes of their heart is that He will allow them to see Him with the eyes of their head. لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى وَزِيَادَةً, as we said yesterday. Ziyada, the surplus, the increase, is this, to behold Allah with the eyes of your head. Because in the dunya you were muhsin. الَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى وَزِيَادَةً. In the dunya as a muhsin, what were you doing? أَن تَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ كَأَنَّكَ تَرَاهُ. You worship Allah as if you see Him. And that is seeing Him in the dunya with the eyes of your heart. Likewise, Jannah and Nar, if you have developed that level of certainty, which is Ayn al-Yaqeen, where it won't increase you in faith to see the Jannah and Nar with the eyes of your head, then that statement is true.
So when we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that He loves the people of taqwa in verses about interactions, interpersonal interactions. Can we say that taqwa is nourished in ibadah?
But I want you also to, because sometimes when we hear these statements, sometimes people can give up and people can become very, they can despair because they see that there is just like a huge distance between them and the idea or the ideal standard of the Sahaba. But even Ibrahim asked for more assurance. بلى ولكن ليطمئن قلبي. He said, yes, I have faith, I believe, but I just want more assurance for my heart to feel tranquil. So if Ibrahim wants more assurance, then you, looking for assurance, you should not doubt your faith because you're looking for more assurance. Because Ibrahim was looking for more assurance. It's just that the Sahaba, sometimes they reached that level when they were with the Prophet ﷺ, they reached that level, but it does not mean that they stayed there all the time. Because it is not human to stay there all the time. The Prophet told us even, "Amin qalbin illa lahu sahabatun ka sahabat al-qamar. بينما القمر مضيء إذ غطته سحابة فأظلم ثم انجلت فأضاء." There is the hadith reported by Abi Nu'aym in his book Al-Hilya from Ali radiallahu anhu. There is no heart except that it has clouds like the clouds of the moon. While the moon is shining, a cloud came by and covered it. So it became dark. The moon lost its light. Or you were obstructed from the moon's light. And then it moved away and the moon shone one more time. Prophet ﷺ is saying that every heart has those clouds. So when a cloud goes by your heart, don't doubt your faith. Inshallah, you're a believer. It is just that you're human. And human beings are subject to the ups and downs, subject to the clouds covering their heart. They feel disconnected at times. They feel that their hearts have been hardened at times. They feel sort of remote from Allah or distant at times. And that is all human. And just make sure that you make sure that the cloud does not become Ram or a sea that covers and envelops your heart. If you continue in the path of heedlessness, if you do not pay attention to the clouds, a believer, when he gets that cloud passing by his heart, he will panic. Sort of, what is happening to me? I'm sort of losing my faith. I'm losing my iman is wavering. I have to do something about it. And then he does something about it, and then he comes back. But people who are heedless, ghafla, or heedlessness, those people will not pay attention to the clouds. And the clouds will basically pile up, and then they seal the heart. Yes.
So when we take those verses into consideration with the verses, say لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, and they mention ibadah, can we say that taqwa is nourished through ibadah but exerted in interactions with the creation? Would that be
That's nice. Certainly. But even your interaction with the creation, it has like sort of feedback into taqwa. So your good conduct with the creation will increase your taqwa. But the test of taqwa is your interaction with the creation. The harder test, because people can be selective. People can make Umrah every other month, and then they fast Monday and Thursday, but they have no, but they don't they have no respect. They have no respect for the bounds of Allah whatsoever. It's just that they're doing this to fill a void in their hearts, to feel entitled to Dar al-Karama in the hereafter, to be honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the abode of His honor in the hereafter. They just want to not miss out on the hereafter. They want to get the dunya, everything from the dunya. They just go out full force with complete disregard to any bounds that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had set, because they just want to capture everything they can in this dunya. Yet, they have enough faith to also believe in the hereafter. And we do not want to miss out on the hereafter. They want to also be in a safe place in the hereafter. So they decide that I will make Umrah and I'll fast and I'll do this and I'll do that. But when it comes to my dealings, when it comes to the dunya, when it comes to basically, garnering all the benefits of this dunya and enjoyments and pleasures of this dunya, I would have no breaks. No breaks. No breaks means no taqwa. Taqwa is the brakes. The brakes on the car, that is the taqwa. That is what stops you, prevents you, curtails you from overindulgence, from trespassing the bounds of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, your ibadat will basically nurture your taqwa, promote your taqwa, and the greatest test of taqwa is your dealings with the people. That's where your taqwa could be tested. That's why Umar ibn Khattab asked someone, someone wanted to witness, to testify on behalf of someone, and Umar ibn Khattab said to him, have you traveled with him? Have you done business with him? Has he been your neighbor? And he said, no. And Umar ibn Khattab said, maybe you saw him in the masjid, like lifting his head up and down in prayer, and you thought that you know him. He said yes. And Umar said to him, you do not know him. If you just saw him in the masjid lifting his head up and down in prayer, and you have not dealt with him in business, he's not been your neighbor, you did not travel with him, you did not have, human interaction with him, worthy interaction with him, you don't know him. Because he could be, as prideful as it gets. And then he walks out of the masjid and completely a different human being, entirely different. And that is not a Mutaqeen. And that is not someone that you want us to testify on behalf of his credibility before a judge, just because you saw him in the masjid. But you can testify, on behalf of him. You can testify to his credibility if you have done business with him, and you know that he would not take a penny that is not his. And then you could testify on his behalf. So yes, it's a good statement.
ليس حديث اتق الله حيثما كنت واتبع السيئات
حسنة خلق الناس بخلق حسن.
Why the Prophet told Mu'adh ibn Jabal this hadith?
Why did he tell Mu'adh versus someone else?
And like why he gave him this advice?
No, but, yeah. No, I wouldn't be able to tell you why Mu'adh in particular, but why would he give this advice to a Sahabi is a whole class in and of itself. But اتق الله حيثما كنت في Allah, wherever you are, أتبع السيئات الحسنة تمحوها, and follow a bad deed with a good one, that it may erase it. وخلق الناس بخلق حسن, and treat people with good conduct is basically a beautiful advice that we could, elaborate on in a different class. But I see that people are already just, there is like a clarification, like a sort of request for disambiguation, request for clarification of something that I said that is not clear, then I'll answer. Otherwise, I'll let you go home, sleep, and I'll go home to sleep as well.
Very good.
Otherwise, we can always rest.